Alright, hello and welcome to today's video where I'm going to be talking about why the self-love path is a path of imperfection and why I think, again, this makes it so unique when we're looking at the other kind of paths of self-improvement and self-help and all of these things that we can get into when we're trying to make our lives better. So, again, this is something that I'm sure if you've watched any of my videos or listened to any of my content or read any of my content, this is a concept that you've heard me talk about and write about and all of these things many, many times before. And I'm going to keep repeating myself on this one because I feel like this idea that we don't need to be perfect and that doing the self-love path perfectly and getting these tools perfect and loving yourself perfectly, understanding that this is not a requirement for this path to work, and understanding that we want to get clear on why we're doing this in the first place and what we're actually looking for and what we are to be expecting from doing this path as many times as we can, because again, in our world, the way that things are set up, the way that the self-help the way that the self-help, self-improvement, spirituality worlds tend to be set up is, for most things, we're taught that there's this program, there's a path, there's a way, there's a thing we should be doing, or a bunch of things we should be doing. And there's a very specific way in which we should be doing them. And there's a very specific way in which we should be living, in which we should be practicing. And there's this standard that we're supposed to be measuring up to, right? That there's always this perfection, this ideal that we're supposed to be getting into, right? Like in yoga, there's the ideal posture. In meditation, there's the ideal calm mind. With lots of spirituality, it's transcending your emotion or transcending your experiences so that you can be in a state of perfect harmony and bliss at all times. With self-love and spiritual, or with self-improvement, it's right, you're supposed to be in control of your mind and in control of your habits and having this very strict and perfect routine, and you're becoming your higher self. And with your relationships, you're perfect at communication, or with your body, you're perfect with your nutrition program, and you're on point with your habits. And just over and over and over again, we're taught, right, that there's this perfect system, there's this perfect way we're supposed to be, and if you just do the thing right, if you just do the program correctly, if you just follow the path, if you just do the thing, you're going to get perfect results. And oftentimes, the path itself, the things that we are doing in order to try to get our results, are not very pleasant. They're not actually enjoyable. They don't actually make us feel good in the moment. We're doing them because we're told that they're right. We're doing them because we're told that if you do this enough, and if you do this long enough, and if you do it properly, eventually one day it's going to give you results. Eventually one day you will reach the state of perfection, and then you will be liberated, and then you will be healed, and then you will be transcended. And with religion, we get the whole, right, you're supposed to live your life in this perfect way so that in the afterlife you will be delivered. And there's just like this constant narrative everywhere we look that there's this perfect path, and you have to find the path, and then once you found the path, you need to do the path perfectly. And when you do the path perfectly for long enough, that is when you will get your results. And then oftentimes mixed in with that is this kind of community. There's a leader, there's a teacher, there's a guide or something like this that's often very charismatic and often very good at making us feel connected to them. And they tell us their story, and they're authentic, and they do all these things, or they're credentialed, or they have just a very amazing transformation story or something like this. And then there's a community of people who are doing the same thing and doing these same practices, and we can get caught up in this feeling of like, right, now I'm part of the group, now I'm doing it right, and I have someone I can trust, and I have someone who has the answers when I don't have the answers, and I have someone who's telling me that this is the answer and this is the way, and if I do this perfectly, that it's going to solve all my problems, that it's going to take all my pain away, or to a large extent, it's going to solve a lot of my problems, or it's going to take a lot of my pain away. And like I say, there's this community connection kind of I want to say circle jerk sometimes, where we're getting this positive feedback from the group of doing the things and participating and doing what we should be doing, and that gives us a feeling of connection, and that gives us a feeling of purpose, and that gives us a feeling that we're doing the right thing, even if the actual practices and the actual behaviors don't feel good in and of themselves, because we're getting that positive feedback from the group, or we're just mentally feeling like we're doing it right because we're following a protocol, right? That there's even this feeling that we get validation, we get this sense that we're doing it right, we get this hope, we get this feeling of, okay, I'm at least on the path, and I know that I'm on the path because I found the thing, and now I'm doing it, I'm following through, I have my answers for whenever I'm hurting, whenever I'm down, whenever I'm sick, whenever I don't know what's going on, whenever I'm confused, whenever I'm lost. I have this thing to return to, I have this thing to ground into that is the answer. And then that makes us feel secure. And even if, like I say, we're not actually getting the results that are being promised, we're not actually feeling that great from it, the thing itself isn't actually working, there's all this psychological positive feedback loop that goes along with it that can override that and make us feel like we're doing the right thing. And like I say, we live in a complex world. And we live in a world where we don't have control over all of our pain. We live in a world where we can easily be confused and easily run into situations where chaos is happening and we don't know how to control it, and we don't know why it's happening, and we don't know where it's coming from, and all of these things are a part of our lived experience. And I've been talking about this in my stories, that I know that a lot of spiritual and self-help and self-love and personal growth techniques promise that they're going to deliver us from the existential realities of life, from the existential realities of feeling insecure and feeling like something bad can happen that we don't have control over, and feeling like the security that we do have or the goodness that we do have is going to go away, and all of this stuff. And we can get into these self-help, self-improvement, spirituality, success, all of these modalities, and there's kind of an underpinning in all of them that, again, if you do this perfectly, if you do this right, if you get this right, that it's going to rescue you from the existential realities of being alive, and that it will give you perfect love, and it will give you perfect security, and it will give you perfect freedom, and it will give you perfect health, and that all of these things are within your control, and it's just about making the right choices and doing the program perfectly, right? And then oftentimes when we get into healing and personal growth and self-love and all of these things, there is a positive benefit that we get from pretty much anything that we could try. Because a lot of the time, again, we have to understand that any program that's being promoted, anything that we're taking on, if it was 100% bullshit, if it was 100% unhelpful, if it was 100% garbage, it could not be sold, right? If there was absolutely no positive benefit in it, no truth in it, no anything about it that could actually improve our lives, people would catch on to that and it wouldn't go anywhere, right? So the fact that everything that we take on and everything that we do and everything that's in the self-help, spirituality, personal growth world is going to give you some benefit. It's going to give you something, because again, if it was absolute bullshit, if there was nothing of benefit to it, it could not be sold. So the fact that you get something out of it makes you feel like the program is right. It makes you feel like everything must be right. It makes you feel like the entire thing must be true. It makes us feel like, okay, I found it. And again, a lot of the time we come to self-help and spirituality and personal growth and all of these things because we're feeling down, because we're feeling insecure, because we're feeling sick, because we have things that we don't know how to navigate, that we're hurting within, and all of this. And so we come in this already vulnerable position. We come in this state of already feeling like we need answers and we need help and we need solutions that we haven't been able to find. And then we start a program that on some level is going to make us feel better. On some level is going to provide something of benefit to make us feel like this thing is real. Like I found it, I found the answer, I found the thing. And then that leads us into feeling like, okay, I just have to do it perfect. And if I just do it perfect, I'm going to get the results that are promised, which are oftentimes very extreme results that are promised. In our self-help, in our self-love, in our spirituality, in our health, in our personal growth work, oftentimes the promises are, this is going to change your life. This is going to fix your life. This is going to totally revolutionize the experience that you're having. And because, like I say, we already come vulnerable, we already come like we're in pain, we already come looking for answers, we already come looking for community, we come looking for someone who feels like they know what they're doing and sounds and portrays themselves as being someone who has all the answers and has it figured out, and who has testimonials from other people and look, my life was shitty before and now it's so much better because I have this thing, I have this program. So we come already vulnerable and already primed for all of that. And then, like I say, because there's always something of benefit in pretty much every program out there, we think, okay, I have found it. Here's the evidence that the program works and that the leader is correct and all of these things are true. And because I got some good results, they did make me feel a little bit better. And then there's the community aspect, there's the approval aspect, there's the we feel like we're on to something aspect, we feel like we're smarter than other people aspect, we feel like, right, we found people we can connect with who are obviously getting better results than we are. And then it starts to get into this place of we feel like, okay, now if I start to not get results, if there are holes in the program, if there's still pain, if there's any of these things, it's just because I'm not doing it hard enough, it's just because I'm not doing it right, it's just because I'm not transcended enough. And we're primed not to question the program. We're primed not to question the leaders. We're primed not to question the theory itself. We're primed to say, nope, see, I was vulnerable, I was desperate, I was scared, I was alone. This person seemed really like they have it all together. I got some good results. They're saying they got good results. Everyone that I've talked to who's involved with this has got some good results. And then there's, if there's haters or if there's anyone who doesn't believe in the program, there's all the answers and all the reasons why those people are crazy and those people are wrong and those people don't know what they're talking about. And then it just comes down to now we feel like we want to believe that everything is within our control. We want to believe that there's a perfect solution to all of our pain that exists. We want to believe that we found it. And then, like I say, we're then in a position to continually feel like if we're not finding perfection, if we're not finding transcendence, if we're not getting the results that are promised, it's our fault for not doing it hard enough, for not doing it enough, for not being more strict about it. And if we start to get results, we start to have, it seems like things are going well, and then the results start to fall off, or symptoms start to come back, or we lose the high of the beginning where everything seemed amazing and everything seemed perfect because we found community, we found answers, we feel like we're making positive momentum. It feels like everything is just working the first 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 6 months, everything, we're on cloud 9, and then the results start to diminish. We start to lose our discipline, we start to lose our capacity to stick with it, all of that stuff happens, and we blame ourselves, right? Because it can't be the program, it can't be the leader, it can't be the leaders, because all of this evidence is already supporting that they have it all figured out. Look at their results are perfect. They promised this perfect thing. I want to believe it because I need to believe that there's a perfect thing that's going to deliver me. And therefore, if my results start to go away, if I start to not feel so good, if it starts to not work as well as it did, if it doesn't deliver what it said it was going to deliver, we're primed to blame ourselves because, again, that feels more empowering so much of the time. To say, I'm just doing it wrong, I'm just not doing it enough, I fell off and that's why my results went away, whatever it is. We want to believe that it's our fault. We want to believe that it's our failing. We want to believe that it's just because we didn't do it perfect. Because the alternative is this thing just doesn't work. It's not going to give us the results that we wanted. Those results don't actually exist in reality. And that's a much harder pill to swallow than I just did it wrong and I just need to try harder. Okay? So this is why I'm saying, and then on top of that, most other spirituality, self-help, self-improvement, whatever, modalities have some element where they're teaching you that there's wrong, bad, flawed, dangerous, untrustworthy parts of yourself, habits, your ego, your inner child, your unhealed wounds, your body, your symptoms, your depression, your anxiety, your emotions, your thoughts, whatever it is. There's always going to be something that they say, and this is the flaw in you, this is the weak part in you, this is the part of you that you can't trust. This is the part of you that's dragging you down and taking your results away. And so then again, anytime you fall off the program, or anytime you don't get the results that you want, or anytime that the promises aren't lived up to, or anything like this, you're primed again to blame this part of yourself, to reject this part of yourself, to say it was my ego, it was my emotions, it was my thoughts, it was my body, it was whatever this, my self-sabotaging part, my inner child that's not mature, whatever it is. It was this part's fault, and I have to blame this part, and I have to abandon myself and reject myself in favor of trusting the program, or trusting the leader, or trusting the guru, or trusting the person. And it's always, if the program didn't work, it was something wrong with you. If you didn't get the results, this is the part that held you back. And it's all trying to teach you not to trust yourself, not to trust your intuition, not to trust your feelings, not to trust your thoughts, not to trust your body. So you're continually being fractured and separated from yourself. Separated from trusting yourself, separated from feeling secure in yourself, separated from being able to use your own capacity to determine, is this working, or am I getting the results that I have been promised? Is this really what it says? We're literally being separated from our critical thinking skills by saying, no, you need to fully trust the program, you need to trust the leader, you need to trust whatever. And if it's not going right for you, if it's not going well for you, if you're not getting the results, this is the part of you that was the problem. This is the part of you that got in the way. This is the part of you that you need to get rid of and that you need to work harder on, and all of that stuff. So is it any wonder that we all feel like there is a perfect answer out there, and that we just need to find it, and that once we find it, if it doesn't work, and if it doesn't give us the results, and if we're not fully transformed and fully healed, it's because we suck. And we don't feel like we can trust ourselves, and we don't feel like we're fundamentally good. We don't feel like we're fundamentally trustworthy. We don't feel like our thoughts have a purpose, or that our inner child has a reason for being the way that they're being. We don't understand our self-sabotage and our scapegoats and our numbing and all of our habits. We don't understand our symptoms, because we're continually primed to see something as the enemy. Some part of ourselves is always being marketed to us as being, this is the thing that's wrong with you. It's your broken brain, it's your broken body, it's your broken ego, it's your broken emotions, it's your stunted childhood self, it's all of these things. And any amount of truth that might be in there is still being skewed to say, and right, this is the bad part of you. And it's the part of you that's making it so that you can't do the program perfectly, and therefore you're not getting the results that you want. Right? That's how pretty much everything that's out there is sold to us. There's a broken part of you. There's a bad part of you. This is what it is. This is the program that's going to get rid of it. When you finally get rid of it, when you finally get on top of it, when you finally do it right, you will be perfectly healed. You will fully transcend, and then you will never have pain again. You will never struggle again. You will never suffer again. And if you keep struggling, and if you keep suffering, and if you keep having these problems, it's because of you. You need to do the thing harder. You need to trust the leader more, you need to blame yourself, get rid of this part of yourself, and this is the answer. Over and over and over again. This is the thing. If you just do it perfect, you will get perfect. And if you don't do it perfect, it's because there's some bad part of you. And that's exactly the opposite of what I'm trying to teach in my work. That the true self-love path does not promise a perfection. Okay? The true self-love path is never going to get rid of the existential realities of being alive. And it's never going to get rid of struggle, and it's never going to get rid of pain and suffering sometimes, and confusion, and feeling like we don't know what we're doing, and it's not going to protect you from every possible thing that could ever happen to you again in the future. It's not going to make you feel 100% secure in this reality in which we are never going to feel 100% secure. We do not have 100% control over our reality, right? And that is, again, that's a weapon that is being used in the spirituality world, this idea of taking responsibility for ourselves, which has incredibly healthy aspects to it. This idea of taking responsibility for why did I choose that, or what did I do, or what did I learn, or how did I participate in that, or any of this stuff. Like, that kind of thinking isn't wrong, and it isn't flawed, and it isn't incorrect when it's used in context, when it's put in its proper place, right? But it's being taken as law. It's being taken as you are fully and completely in control of your entire experience. And again, we can understand why we would want to believe that's true. That is childhood psychology 101. My caregivers are God. If I control my behavior enough to make them like me, they will give me everything I want and protect me from all my pain, because that's their job. That's childhood psychology 101. When we were children, we had no context, no concept of the fact that our caregivers weren't God. They weren't in control of everything. They didn't have all the answers. They didn't have access to everything. They didn't understand everything. That everything they were doing wasn't about us. We didn't have that awareness. All we knew was that they were the givers and takers. The givers of pleasure and the takers awayers of pain. And if they weren't doing that, the only thing we had awareness of was that our behavior was somehow affecting that. And so we internalized literally everything that ever happened between us and our caregivers as being something about us. Because that's the perspective we had. That our entire reality was within their control. And the way that we had control was to augment our behavior to fit what they wanted and to not be what they didn't want. And then we turn that into a spiritual concept. That the universe is fully witnessing us, and it's fully designed this perfect life for us in this perfect plan. And if we just do the right things and say the right things and get our vibration right and get on the program and whatever it is, if we do the program perfect, it's gonna give us only good results. And if we're getting bad results, if we're in pain, if there's things happening that we don't want to be happening, it's because of us on some level. Because that makes us feel like if we can just get the program right, if we can just do everything perfect, we will never struggle or suffer or be in a position of being unsafe ever again. Right? Of course we want to believe that. Of course we want to believe that we can perfect ourselves in some way so that we will never hurt or be alone or be scared or not have the answers or be vulnerable ever again. Of course we want to believe our health is 100% within our control. Of course we want to believe that our mental health is 100% within our control. Of course we want to believe that the relationships that we have and everything that we attract and everything that comes into our lives is 100% within our control. Because again, that would make us feel like if we can just do the thing right, we'll never be scared or hurt or harmed again. And what I'm trying to say is that I believe true spirituality, the thing that's actually going to make us feel better in this life, isn't going to be denying reality. And I believe that we are denying reality when we think that we are in full and complete control of our lives. We are denying reality when we think that we have no control, and we think that we have no power, and we think that everything is just fate and everything is just happening to us and we have no capacity for anything. I believe that is a denial of reality, just as much as its polar opposite is a denial of reality. Rather, we live in a world where we have some control, we have some power, we have some influence, we can always make some choice, and there will always be things that we don't have control over. There will always be things that we did not choose. And like I say, if you want to believe that everything happens for a very specific reason to teach you a very specific lesson because you're on a very specific life path that you chose in a past life, fine. I'm not here to tell you can't believe that. Again, and I'm not saying to not have a spirituality. I am not saying to not believe that there's something bigger than our consciousness, and that maybe that our consciousness goes on after the body dies, or that it has lived before, or that there isn't like a destiny to your life, or that there isn't higher guidance or a spiritual guidance on some level. Because again, I believe that stuff. Like, I have had experience with that stuff. More, what I'm trying to say is, what I think is healthier is for us to really weigh our own experience against our reality, and to question what we have actually experienced. Okay? So, and this brings me back to the self-love path being a path of imperfection. What I can tell you from my own experience of self-love is, just like everybody else, just like every other human being on the planet, I was conditioned to believe that I was evil and bad and wrong. Just like everybody else, I was conditioned, and there was lots of evidence for me to believe that, right? That I was rejected, I was told I was wrong, I was told I was bad, I was told I was evil, I was not liked, I was rejected from friends, and my caregivers constantly didn't like me, and all of these things. And hating myself, and trying to not be who I really was, and also being chronically ill my whole life, and not knowing that I was chronically ill because I was blamed for my illnesses, and then undiagnosed for a really long time, and then especially in the all health movement, right, just told over and over and over again that everything can be healed, and if you're not healing and if you're not doing better, it's because you're failing, and you caused it and you chose it. And I literally believed for some reason that I just entered my adulthood with all of my illnesses, and as in that I had created them all in my adulthood, completely ignoring that I had been sick my entire childhood. Because again, right, the psychological damage that had happened in my life was very much like, you are causing us pain, you are causing us inconvenience, you are the problem, and you need to fix yourself, and all of this, right? So even because I didn't get diagnosed as a child, because there were so many things of my sicknesses that were just so normal to me, I didn't even realize I was chronically ill, all that stuff. I understand what it's like to have been conditioned to believe that you're not trustworthy, to believe that your body is broken, to believe that you can't be trusted, and that you're fundamentally wrong and fundamentally bad, because when you are yourself, or when you do what you want to do, or when you live in a way that feels right for you, other people get upset, other people reject you, nobody loves you, you're told over and over again that you're bad and wrong, and that you're hurting other people, and that your way of being is awful. And then I was codependent just like everybody else. I still am, probably, like, definitely, I'm still working on it. Like, I am nowhere near perfected. All of these things, I know what it's like to have been conditioned in this world where all of us are raised to some degree to reject ourselves, where all of us are raised to some degree to believe that there's something wrong with us, and that we're fundamentally flawed, and that we can't trust ourselves, where we have been in real time rejected, abandoned, abused all of these things because of who and what we are, because of what was natural to us, because of our growth path, because of what we needed to grow, all of these things. This is complex, right? The reasons that we hate ourselves, the reasons that we reject ourselves, the reasons we're not connected to our bodies and we're not connected to our emotions, and we feel like our emotions are wrong and bad, and we feel like our bodies are wrong and bad, the reason we feel like we can't trust ourselves, the reason we feel so out of control of ourselves a lot of the time is because we were conditioned that way, right? And then on top of that, we were conditioned, all of us have been conditioned, that love and approval and acceptance equals security, equals safety, equals getting our needs met, equals being good and being right, and therefore being safe and able to express ourselves. And then beyond just being safe and beyond just having our needs met, it's when we're loved and when we're approved of and when we're accepted, that's when we feel like we can express ourselves and we can grow and we have access to the resources we need to expand and do all of these things that we want to do. So it's no wonder that we feel like if we get abandoned and rejected and abused and people don't understand us, that we're not going to be okay. And then on top of that, again, if we're chronically ill or if we have any kind of lack of being fully and completely able to live in the system the way that it is and feel like we can generate success for ourselves, which is most of us, because let's be honest, the system is set up for a very, 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 very specific type of person who is mostly not any of us, right? And we're trained to believe that if you can't live up to the expectations of society, if you can't be what society says is productive and valuable, that you are not going to be safe. You are not going to have access to resources. You are not going to have access to the spaces where you could express yourself. You don't get to live a safe life. And in some situations, you are actually antagonized. We have to be honest about that. We live in a reality where our systems are set up in such a way that certain people groups are not safe just for being themselves. Chronically ill, neurodivergent, having any kind of disability, and I'm putting that in quotes, having any kind of not being able to get on and get along in the system the way that it is, and just be this kind of like solo, work hard, higher educated person. There's insecurity that comes with that. Yeah? And that's baked into the system. That's how the system works. So again, the fact that we feel like we have to abandon ourselves, the fact that we feel like we have to reject ourselves, the fact that we feel like things aren't real unless it's validated by someone else, the fact that we don't feel like our experience is real until someone says that it is, the fact that we don't feel like we can trust ourselves and do what is good for us and say no to things and all of this stuff, it all comes in part because of how reality is actually set up, and that these insecurities really are real and really are true. And then it's hard to determine how much we can be rejected and how much we can be abandoned and how much we can go our own way and still be okay. How much we can figure out for ourselves, how much we can be misunderstood and still be okay now as adults versus how much we can't. And that is different for all of us. There isn't a specific amount that all of us can just be authentic and not need others that is relevant to everyone, right? Like my ability to go my own way and trust my intuition and trust my body and follow what was right for me was predicated on the fact that I have certain privileges that not everybody has, that I had certain access that not everybody has. And this is why I don't come up here and say, this is what everyone should do. Everyone should just quit their job and get online and move to Asia. Because that's what worked for me because of my very specific circumstances. and me being a very specific way, and that's what I needed, and that's what, like I say, and the amount of being rejected and the amount of being abandoned and abused and all that stuff, I could handle it because of my life circumstances and because of my strengths and because of my specific way. So what I'm trying to say is this path of self-love is meant to help us first start to establish an inner safety that most of us have never had. Most of us got abandoned, rejected, abused so early on in our childhoods, so early on in our lives, that we learn to abandon, abuse, and reject ourselves. And we never learn to develop this inner resource of I can trust myself and I can go my own way and I can do my own thing and still be okay. Because we were so socially conditioned that access to what we needed and safety and provision comes from the outside, and that comes from being approved of. And so I need to do and be whatever it is that I need to do and be so that I will be approved of in order to be safe. And so we're constantly looking outside of ourselves. We're constantly looking for our safety on the outside. We're constantly looking for validation. We're constantly looking for others to understand us so that they will give us what we need. And to a degree, for almost all of us, we're going to realize that now that we're adults, we have a little bit more autonomy than we did when we were children. So that's what I'm trying to say, is it is different for everyone. It does not mean that all of us can just wake up one day and decide we're going to be our full authentic selves and everything will be fine. That's not reality. It is to say that we want to start to develop and establish an inner safety so that we can start to figure out where our boundaries are. So we can start to figure out what works for us and what doesn't. So we can start to figure out where the power we do have is. Because I do believe that all of us tend to have a little bit more power than we think that we do. All of us tend to have a little bit more freedom than we think that we do. All of us tend to have a little bit more capacity to be authentically ourselves, to go our own way, to follow what actually feels good for us than we think that we do. And we're not as dependent on being accepted and loved and valued and approved of as we think that we are. And understanding too that finding this inner resilience, finding this inner safety is really important, because we want to be able to take steps. We want to be able to take little risks. We want to be able to do what is right for us and be able to see that even if we make a mistake and even if it doesn't go the way that we thought it was going to go, and even if it's hard and even if it's scary, that we do have some resource to be okay. And again, this is not to say that all of us need to just jump off the deep end and there are no consequences and you'll figure it out, because I don't live my life that way. And I hope that none of us live our lives that recklessly. We want to take calculated risks. We want to take risks where we can say, okay, if the worst thing that could possibly happen happens here, I do think that I could be okay. I do think that I could figure it out. I do think that I have the wiggle room to make this jump just in case the worst thing happens. And we want to be able to say, no, now if the worst thing in this jump happens, I can't deal with it. That's not a thing that I can do. And so we scale it back. And we take a different step, we take a smaller step. And like I say, all of us have been conditioned to some degree or other not to have this inner safety, not to have this ability to say that if I'm in pain and if I'm scared and if I'm confused and if I don't know what's going on and if I feel insecure, to not either blame ourselves or abandon ourselves. Most of us were not taught that skill. That when I'm in pain, when I'm scared, when I'm lost, when I don't know what's going on, when the world is scary, when I'm feeling trapped, when I feel like I don't know what's going on, most of us, when we look inside, we're going to realize that we're blaming ourselves, we're shaming ourselves, we're looking for how it's our fault, we're looking for what we did wrong in a very angry parent at a child way, or we're abandoning ourselves. We're saying, okay, nope, I have no idea. There's no way I can figure this out. I have no resource. I fucked it up. See, I trusted myself and it totally went wrong. I'm the worst, I have no access, I have no guidance, I have nothing, and then we're just looking outside of ourselves for someone to fix it. And this is what the imperfect path of self-love is all about. It's as much as we can, we bring that compassion and we bring that curiosity so that we can start to build our adult perspective that helps us navigate the complex reality that we live in. So we are not going to be able to do it every time. We are not always going to be able to have compassion for ourselves. We are not always going to be able to be curious. We are not always going to be able to show up for ourselves and see that we're abandoning ourselves and see that we're rejecting ourselves and see that we're blaming ourselves. Because these things, again, the abandonment, the self-sabotage, the coping, the numbing, the scapegoating, the blaming, the shaming, the guilting, this was all survival instinct. These habits are not bad, and they are not wrong, and they are not things we just chose to do to fuck up our lives so that we wouldn't be connected to our intuition, right? I'm just going to challenge everyone to sit here right now and say, okay, do you remember making a decision somewhere along the line where you were like, I could trust myself and it'll be fine. I could trust myself and this will be a good thing for me, and sometimes life will be hard and sometimes life will be scary, but like I have access and I can like figure things out. Or I could abandon myself and I could shame myself and I could blame myself and I could hate myself. And these two options are just perfectly equal, and I can see what the outcome of both of them is going to be, and I'm just going to choose the shitty one. Did any of you out there have the ability to trust yourself, to be in it, to have that inner resource, to have that inner safety, to be connected to your emotions, to connected to your intuition, to be able to say, okay, I'm an adult now, I can be rejected a little bit, I'm not as dependent on other people as I thought I was, I can test the boundaries a little, I have that. Or I can abandon myself, I can shame myself, I can blame myself to try to make myself what everyone around me wants me to be so that I'll be safe. And I'm going to choose that one. No, none of us made a conscious choice to abandon ourselves, to reject ourselves, to be disconnected from our emotions and our bodies. So like that, just right there, I hope that this is an alternative message to most of the self-help, self-love, spirituality, self-improvement work out there. You didn't just arrive in your adulthood with all these shitty habits because you suck. Absolutely everything that you're doing, every amount that you abandon yourself, every amount that you reject yourself, every part of yourself you're not connected with, every time you go into self-hate, you're doing it because that's what you learned to do to keep yourself safe. Always. So that's why this path of self-love is always going to be an imperfect path, in the sense that we're never going to understand compassion and curiosity, understand being on our own side, understand validating ourselves so that we can get to understand what we actually want and what we actually need, so we can take small steps and all that stuff. And then we're just do it now. Because it's programmed into our nervous system to do all the other stuff. It's programmed into our nervous system to abandon ourselves, to reject ourselves, to shame ourselves, to abdicate onto someone else's wisdom, to believe that there's a broken part of ourselves, and then to get sucked in by the self-help, spirituality, personal growth movement that says, here's the bad part of you that you can't trust, and if you just get on this perfect program, you'll be safe from everything forever. We're primed for that. Like, right? These people are preying on our primitive programs. They're capitalizing on our primitive programs. We are primed to blame ourselves, and we are primed to abandon ourselves. And that's exactly what most of these programs teach us to do. So when we start to understand, okay, no, every time I abandon myself and every time I reject myself, hi. We're not just choosing to do it because we suck. We're not just choosing to do it because we don't love ourselves. We're not just abandoning ourselves because we're not doing the program perfect. It's never that. We are doing the best we can with what we know at the time. Always. And then we have to understand that literally every single time we're able to show up for ourselves with compassion. Every single time we're able to show up with curiosity. Every single time we're able to question our narrative a little bit. Every single time we're able to feel an emotion. Every single time we allow ourselves to just be in our bodies and see what happens. Every single time we allow ourselves to be upset about a thing we're actually upset about instead of being upset with ourselves. Every single time we do that, we're rewiring the way that we respond to ourselves. We're building a muscle. We're moving forward. And it does something. And I want you to understand that that progress is never erased. That progress is never erased when we fall off track. Because we're not falling off track. We're doing what we've been programmed to do forever. And then we're trying something new. We're wearing a new rut. And that takes time and repetition and doing it over and over and over again. Okay? And then the next big thing that I really want to say. So there is no perfect self-love. There is no getting this and doing it every single time. There is no doing it perfect. Ever. Rewiring how you respond to yourself after literally in a lifetime of being programmed that you had to be this other way takes time, it takes energy, it takes repetition, it takes falling off and doing it again and falling off and doing it again as many times as it takes. And again, like I say, I've been practicing this since 2012. And I am not perfect at it. And it has completely changed my life. And I still have problems, right? My life is not perfect, but it is much better than it used to be. And I did it completely through doing this imperfectly. There have been times in my life where months have gone by and I'm just totally abandoning myself. And I'm not even noticing. There have been times when just the thought of being on my own side felt so dangerous and it felt so bad and it felt so scary that I couldn't do it, even though I knew it would help me. That's normal. That's to be expected. So you can, and it doesn't erase progress, ever. Every single time I did it, it was a wearing of a rut, of the new rut, and eventually it started to become my new way of being, just with repetition. So every time you fall off, every time you forget, every time you go back to the old behaviors, compassion. There's nothing wrong with you. You're not erasing your progress. Everything that you've ever done has counted. Every time you do it, it counts. Every time you do it, it counts. Okay? Second thing, we have to remember why we're doing this. We have to remember why we're doing this and then weigh everything that we're doing against that. We are on the self-love path purely and completely because we want to feel better in our lives. That's it. You are not doing it to live up to an expectation. You are not doing it so that you can say, I did the program perfect. You are not doing it for approval from someone else. There is no approval and there is no perfection in this path. It is for you. And that has to be why you do everything. Meaning, if someone like me comes up and says, here's a practice that you could try, and you try it and it does not improve your life, it does not make you feel better, it does not work for you, abandon the practice. Do not abandon yourself. If you try something for a month that's supposedly supposed to heal your body, and it doesn't make you feel better, or if it does make you feel better, but the effort required to make yourself stay on the program is so much that you can't do it, Trust yourself. Okay? This self-love path means that we stop forcing ourselves to do things that we're told is the answer and that is going to change our lives. Because that doesn't exist. Rather, we start to say, no. Everything that I'm going to do on my path of healing and growth and spirituality and self-discovery is going to be a step on the path. Everything that I'm going to do is going to be an accumulation of other things. Everything that I'm going to try is going to be a part of it. There is no ultimate answer. There is no ultimate perfection. There is no ultimate anything. It's just an accumulation of things over time. And thus, if we take something on as a habit or a discipline or a technique that doesn't make us feel better in the short term and doesn't give us results that are worth whatever we have to sacrifice to do the behavior. Because I think that's the other thing. Just part of being alive means we're constantly making a sacrifice every time we choose to do anything. When we choose to stay up at night and watch TV, we're sacrificing sleep. When we choose to make juice, we're sacrificing that time we could be spending doing something else. When we choose whatever to love ourselves, we're sacrificing what we would have done before. Every choice we make means that we are sacrificing something else. And if that sacrifice isn't worth the payoff, we are not going to stick with it. So every time you try to do something on the self-love path, on your healing path, on your growth path, I want you to really ask yourself, what do I have to sacrifice to do this thing? And is the sacrifice worth it to me? Is the sacrifice actually worth it to me? Are the results that I'm getting worth the sacrifice? And again, always, always, always coming from a place of understanding that nothing is it. Okay? A lot of us will force ourselves to do things that we hate, to do things that do not feel good, to do things that are not working for us, because we're convinced that if I just do it long enough and if I do it right, it's going to save my life. And the answer is always, if it's actually making your life better, if it's actually moving you towards the results that you want, it should feel good in the interim. It should feel good to do it. And that doesn't mean some days it's not going to be a bit of a slog, and that's why we say, on the days when it's hard, and on the days when we don't want to, and on the days when the payoff doesn't seem worth it, we have to then ask ourselves, okay, no, is the payoff worth it? Or do I need to take a break from this thing? Do I need to let it go for a bit and actually see what happens? And we start to step away from this belief, this doing things to be good, this doing things to be on point, on program, doing the program right. We start to understand that, of course, again, we want that. There's the psychology behind that. We want to believe if we do it right, even if it sucks, it's going to heal us one day. It's going to lead to salvation. But we have to step back and say nothing works like that. The self-love path is about understanding that reality doesn't work like that. If it's not giving us benefit in the interim, it's not going to give us benefit in the long term. So sometimes it's hard, and sometimes it's shitty, and sometimes it's whatever, but then we have to ask ourselves, is the payoff, is the sacrifice worth it? And only you can decide that for yourself. Nobody can tell you this is worth it and you should do it. Only you can decide, okay, this is worth it to me. And that's the other thing about the self-love path, is that it's no longer about other people telling you this is worth it, so you should do it, and you say, okay, I'm going to do it. I'm going to abandon myself, right? So again, if it feels shitty to me, if it's hard to me, if my body is telling me this doesn't work, if I'm getting sicker, if I'm getting weaker, if I'm getting bad results, that I'm going to ignore that because I'm being told this is the answer and this is the way and this is the thing to do. And it's going to save my life eventually. It's going to make everything better eventually. We stop living like that. And we say, no, the proof is in the pudding. If the thing isn't working for me, it's not real. And we start to trust ourselves that if we're not getting good results from the program, it's not us, it's the program. Because nothing is the answer. And if it's not making you feel better, if it's not worth the payoff, the sacrifice right now, it's not going to get better in the future. That's not how it works. Anything that feels good now, any habit that we're doing that's actually serving us will feel good now. It might be uncomfortable, it might be weird, it might be different, but there should be some payoff. And then again, sometimes we might want to give ourselves like a month or a couple of weeks to try it without making a judgment, because changing our habits can be hard and doing new things can be uncomfortable. And sometimes we need a little buffer of time before we can really tell if it's really working or not. But like, don't push yourself to do something for like 6 months or years that feels shitty to you. Don't do that. Okay? Self-love is imperfect. It's not going to perfect your life. It's not going to make everything perfect. It's going to incrementally make things better. It's going to incrementally allow you to be with yourself more, to trust yourself more. And then that means that we can take on experts. We can take on people who really do know better than us in some ways. And we can say, okay, I'm going to try what you're saying and weigh it against my own experience, right? Because this doesn't mean that you know everything, that you are the complete expert on all things. That's not true. We are going to learn from other people who know better than us in some ways. But again, we should always be weighing that against our experience. That's how we can tell if an expert is trustworthy or not. Do their results match what they're saying they're going to give you? Is the outcome matching what they're saying it is? Is it benefiting you? That's how we tell. That's how we use our intuition. Is it actually working? And if it isn't, abandon it. And if it is, keep going. And like I say, and I think I'm going to talk about this in the next video, we are never going to get rid of the existential reality of being alive. There's always going to be insecurity. And insecurity exists for all of us in a different way. Self-love does not get rid of being alive. It helps us navigate being alive. And there's a huge difference between embracing the existential realities and learning how to support ourselves and love ourselves through it imperfectly. Because again, we were all abandoned, we were all abused, we were all trained not to be on our own side. And sometimes we need external support to help us with that. So again, I want to just make a plug. If you can get therapy, if you can read books like Internal Family Systems, if you can do somatic work, if you can, sometimes we need, right, like the mystery school, someone telling you it's okay to trust yourself. Sometimes we need that as a bridge over and as a reminder every once in a while. And again, the last thing I want to say too, learning is always going to happen in spirals. So here's the other part of the imperfection of the path. You're going to learn stuff on this path and you're going to get it and it's going to be amazing and you're going to get amazing results and you're going to, like, everything's going to click, and then you're going to go through a period of time where you just can't do it, or you get triggered by something and you're totally falling off and you lose that awesome momentum you had. That is always going to be a part of life. We're never going to have perfection even in the habits we know work for us, in the things that we know feel good to us, in the things that we know, like I say, are beneficial, because we're human and we're fallible and life gets in the way sometimes and we forget. And I just want you to, again, understand, you never lose progress. When you fall off of a thing and you forget it for a while, even though it totally made sense to you and it totally worked for you and it was all coming from this internal place, you lost motivation, like, you didn't lose progress. You learned something from the contrast. right? When you leave a habit that was really working for you and then you come back to it, you learn something from that. That's just how reality works. None of us are ever going to just get it and then we're on it for the rest of our lives forever and ever. Amen. We're not robots. Because life doesn't stop happening because we love ourselves. We never get rid of the existential realities of being alive, which means the unknown, which means curveballs, which means things we didn't see coming, which means getting shook up sometimes. This is reality. Self-love helps us say, okay, it's okay. Do I want to return to that thing now that I can? Great. Let's see how it feels. What did I learn from not doing it for a while? What actually drives me? Right? That this path is about finally coming back to, at the end of the day, this life is about what matters to you. And you can't outsource that. Only you can determine for yourself what you value, what matters to you, what you want to pursue and what you don't. And we're never going to feel like we're living our life of purpose, and we're never going to feel like we're on track until we finally just say, there isn't a right way to do this. There isn't a right way to do this. So what matters to me, and what can I tolerate, and what can I do within the realm of reality that exists? We start to be able to say, this is just my life, and no one can make it anything for me. And no one can define it as successful or unsuccessful except for me. And no one can do that for you. We're never going to be able to be validated or loved or approved of enough to feel like our life mattered until we just start to say, my life matters. What I want matters. What I feel matters. What matters to me? Right? Like, what moral laws do I want to follow? Because it feels right to me. And that can feel a little bit dangerous. And you know what? We have to understand that that's already what everyone is doing. That's not really a change from how reality already is. Everyone is already deciding for themselves what they believe. And sometimes we're just outsourcing it and saying, okay, I'm just going to do what this person says and I'm going to do what this person... Because again, right, we all want that security. We want the security that if I do it right, I'm going to be saved and I'm going to be safe. And sometimes we have to kind of let that go and just say that there isn't a perfect safety and that there isn't a perfect validation and there isn't perfectly knowing we're doing it right. We just have to do the best we can with what we have in the moment. And we just have to decide for ourselves what we value and what matters to us and what we're going to support and what we're not going to support. And we can't outsource that. And then when we find those things, we absolutely can turn to experts who know better than us in some areas. And then we weigh that against our experience. We weigh our habits against what are they actually doing for me. You are not here to live up to anything. This is not school. This is not a job performance. Your life is not about someone else approving of you. And even if you get to a place where you say, okay, well, this is what is required for me to keep living the way that I want to live. And there's some external approval that is necessary for that. And I have to do certain things in order to have that. You will say, okay, I'm making that choice. Because the alternative is, I am a different way, I don't get that approval, I don't want that alternative. You see what I'm saying? It doesn't mean that we no longer ever live for approval. We just weigh the options. What is actually of most benefit to us in the reality that currently exists? What matters to you? What are you willing to see if you can do without? What are you willing to risk? What are you not willing to risk? And you don't judge yourself for it. Make it okay. This path is always going to be imperfect. This path is always going to be imperfect. because life is always imperfect. It's never going to give perfect results, and it's never going to come from a perfectly self-loving person. But it's going to be good, because we're just learning to navigate the realities that exist. And we're no longer living in a fantasy land that if we just do something perfect, it will give us perfect results. And then we can live in real reality, where we can start to say, well, what are the results that I want, and what is required to get those results, and is that actually worth it to me? You can't outsource what matters to you. Don't deny what matters to you. And make your choices from, does this matter to me? Not, am I doing it perfect, and am I doing it right? Does it matter to you? As much as you can. You can't do it wrong. The path is imperfect, and that is the path. Okay. I'm sending you a big hug. Thank you for being here. Let me know if you want the next video to be about why self-love doesn't get rid of our existential crises. Okay? And until then, I'll see you then. Have a good night.